Industrial Talk is brought to you by Palo Alto Networks. You've heard me talk about my friends at Palo Alto Networks, Zero Trust OT Security, delivering a comprehensive security solution for all OT assets, networks, and remote operations. But did you know that the Palo Alto Networks solution provides over 1,100 app IDs for OT protocols, over 500 profiles for critical OT assets, and over 650 OT-specific threat signatures? Now that's best-in-class security delivered. Learn more about Palo Alto Networks' Zero Trust OT security solutions and how you can achieve 351% ROI over 5 years. Learn more about the Palo Alto Networks solution by going out to paloaltonetworks.com. That's paloaltonetworks.com.
Welcome to the Industrial Talk Podcast with Scott McKenzie. Scott is a passionate industry professional dedicated to transferring cutting-edge, industry-focused innovations and trends while highlighting the men and women who keep the world moving. So put on your hard hat, grab your work boots, and let's go.
Hey there, and welcome to Industrial Talk. Thank you very much once again for joining Industrial Talk and be a part of this ever-expanding community, because we know you are bold, you are brave, you dare greatly. This platform is all about you and your success, and we thank you each and every day for being a part of it. Now, we're going to be talking about cybersecurity. We're going to be talking about OT, and we're going to be talking about IT. We're going to be talking about active scanning versus passive scanning, all of the things that are associated with cybersecurity. His name is Huxley Barbee, and his company is runZero. So let's get cracking. I always enjoy a conversation around cybersecurity. We are connected. If we're connected community, connected business, it's got to be a part of the conversation. And not to be so intrusive, right? We want things that just know that we are safe and we can continue doing our business the way we need to do our business, and have those connected assets and pull that data off there and not worry at all. Zero. No worry about being, penetrated, which nobody wants, right? All right. Industrial Talk. We are a platform, and this platform is, again, dedicated to you. You want to amplify your voice? Industrial Talk. You want to engage more individuals for greater opportunity? Industrial Talk. Go out to Industrial Talk, click on Talk to Me, connect with me, let's chat, whatever the button says, and you'll be talking to me, because we're building this ecosystem is a collection of individuals that solve problems. There are a lot of pain out there, pain points out there. What do we do? Who do we trust? That's what we're all about. So this sort of Spotify-ish platform is so that you can find the right individuals or be the right individual to help solve problems. And that's what we're building out on Industrial Talk. We have podcasts, we have videos, we have webcasts, we have learning management systems. Got an exciting opportunity that's going to be breaking. You'll hear about it. It's not there yet, but we're going to have something that's pretty spectacular, working with one of the incredible individuals and companies that are a part of the platform. So just keep on the lookout for that, or you'll hear me talk about it most definitely. All right. Huxley, in the hot seat. runZero is the company. We're talking about cybersecurity. He is, on his form, he's a security evangelist. And he is, man. The conversation was absolutely stunning. All right, let's get cracking. Here's Huxley. Huxley, welcome to Industrial Talk. Thank you very much for finding time in your busy schedule. How are you doing today?
Doing very, very well in the frozen tundra of New York.
Yeah, but is it going to get, are you going to get some snow? Are you going to get some, what's the weather going to be like?
Potentially tomorrow, Sunday, I think.
Yeah, really?
Yeah, there's a blizzard coming through in the Northeast. I think all the way down to mid-Atlantic as well.
I heard that. Look at that. Yeah. Weather chit chat right off the bat. Everybody's focused on weather.
It drives our lives.
It does, whether
Yeah,
we like it
just
or
just
not.
just as much as OT ICS environments do as well. So
Look at you. Look at front of mind, top of mind,
it all
whatever that.
ties in. It all
It's
ties in.
all in mind. There you go. All right, for the listeners out there, Huxley, give us a little background on who you are.
Well, I am the security evangelist at runZero, which is a chasm solution that is the
Slow
fastest and
down,
easiest.
chasm. You can't just throw all I see is Grand Canyon. That's a chasm.
Sure. Yeah. So let me just say that first that I'm the security evangelist at runZero. I'm also the lead organizer for B-Sides New York City, which is a security conference. And I've been in cybersecurity for over 2 decades, which I guess is a good and a bad thing. But to get back to your question, a chasm solution is a cyber asset attack surface management solution. And what we do essentially is we are any organization's first step in managing their exposure to all the threats on that you can find. And we do that primarily by telling you about all the things that are on your network and what are all the risks, the vulnerabilities on those things.
In a real-time
And
way.
in a real-time way. And the thing is, the real differentiator here is that we can do this for IT environments, IoT environments, as well as OTS, ICS environments. And that's the real thing that's really different about us, is that we can do all device types, IoT, IT, as well as OT.
As a level set, because you've been in it for 2 decades plus, you've seen a lot of changes. One of the challenges that I see is this whole IoT. Hey, the device. I'm going to be able to stick a device on this particular asset. I'm going to start pulling data, and I'm going to. It's all connected, and I'm all great, but I never really think about the security side of that. I don't. I just want to collect data.
Security is often an afterthought.
Yes,
It's gotten to be less so on the IT side, but
of
what I
course.
find really interesting is that in OT, ICS environments, organizations, I often feel like Marty McFly going Back to the Future, where like the security maturity is like 30 years behind.
Yeah, I I can attest to that. I mean, I'm an OT guy. I'm just concerned about my OT stuff. That pump, that motor, the operations, the whatever it might be.
Yeah,
And
availability is king. Like that is the
yeah,
most important thing,
absolutely.
right? Avoid outages at all cost, right? And
Yeah.
that's for good reason, right? You want to avoid outages because you want to avoid loss of revenue. You want to avoid getting fined by various regulatory organizations. So yeah, for good reason, you want to be operationally efficient and have superb resilience. But
Yeah.
you know, at the end of the day, at some point, when you're not paying attention to the security side of the house, it's going to come back to bite you, unfortunately.
So how do we take this? Like, here's a scenario. I'm in operations. I'm a manufacturer. That's what I do. Been doing that. Somebody comes to me, knocks on the door, says, "Hey, we can collect data now." And I'm all, "Oh, great. What can I do with the data?" "Well, you can make tactical decisions, and it's great stuff, and it keeps your assets up and running. You're more efficient, and so on and so forth. And therefore, all you have to do is to buy this device." Again, afterthought. I never even thought of security in that scenario.
Mhm.
How do you begin? I mean, how do we begin this journey to say it's okay to have a conversation with security up front? What do we do? Take us through that effort.
Yeah. So ultimately, you want to get to a point where there's actually a security program that is working hand in hand with the operational folks, right? You don't want operations to completely neglect security. At the same time, you don't want security or a security organization that's coming in out of left field, trying to influence operations in a way that, that's not aligned,
Yeah.
right? And so you need to make sure that there's alignment at the very top to start with, right? Oftentimes, like if the board of directors of your organization is on board with making security an important part of what you do, then things are going to go well. right? Because they're going to ensure that people are aligned at some point. But if they're not, then there's still a lot more lobbying that needs to be done before you can even get there, right? So,
But you know as well as I do, when somebody comes in, hi, I'm the security specialist and I want to talk to you.
mhm.
Not everybody's like, all right, let me just buddy up to them. And I was like, let's have a conversation.
Oftentimes it's the complete opposite, right?
Yes.
Where I've even met some like operational folks, not to disparage anybody, like, but they're willing to take an outage in order to fix a mechanical problem,
Mhm.
right? But they won't take an outage of a shorter time period to do a security patch.
That's crazy.
Which, well, I mean, there's reasons for that, right? That one, it doesn't help operationally, at least directly, like we'll say. But at the same time, they don't know what are the other ramifications of doing that security update that might affect the way these devices operate.
So not in a disparaging way. They're ignorant in a sense because
Your words, not
my words. Yes, it is, but that's okay. I can have those
yeah.
words because I'm just a
Well,
warm
and
fuzzy guy.
the important thing is to have more conversations, right?
Yes.
So that everybody understands like why it is important to include security in conversations, and include security in how you plan to operate your plant or your facilities going forward. Because, unfortunately, the things in the news are helping drive that conversation. I wish it weren't the case. I wish there weren't these negative drivers that's um, that's acting like a forcing function for these conversations. But more and more, that's becoming the case.
I don't have a problem with that. I mean, whatever it takes if we want to be this connected facility, we want to be connected in our operations. We're just going to have to just recognize that there's that security component. So let's sort of pull on this string a little bit. So I've got it out there. I've bitten it hook, line, and sinker. I'm all connected now. I've got the devices out there, and there's passive and active capabilities. Take us through what that looks like. I want to know what's happening out there. I want to know that I'm protected in a sense.
Yeah, I mean, there's a few things there's a few places where you want to end up, right? The outcomes that you want to see. You do want to see some sort of layering of your environment, right? Many folks like the Purdue model. Like, we can debate whether or not the Purdue model is good or bad.
I can.
But it is, arguably the one that sort of everybody agrees to. So it might not be the best, but it's the one that is sort of understood and accepted. So there's that. You do want to get to some place where there's stratification, because having that sort of layering really does help in security, right? Layered defense is a very, very old security principle. And what goes hand in hand with that, of course, is knowing what you have, right? There's this very old adage that you can't protect what you know. It's been said many times, and I cringe a little bit at saying that, because it's a little bit overstated, right? Overplayed.
I'll just say Huxley. This is straight from Huxley's mouth, right there.
Yeah. So knowing what you have in your OT or ICS environment is very, very important, right? Because you need to at least know about what that thing is in order to properly ensure that you have the correct type of security controls, right? So you start with having some sense of what you have, right? And then you couple that with your risk appetite. And based on your risk appetite, you want to decide if you're going to accept the risk, you're going to transfer the risk, or you're going to avoid the risk, or you're going to mitigate the risk. And for the cases where you're going to mitigate, you're going to want to select the type of security controls that are commensurate with the value that type of device has to your organization. And so one of the first things you need to do is to get a good asset inventory of your environment.
Yeah. Okay. So here it is. Again, back to the scenario. I'm all in. I'm all connected. I'm all digitally running up, and I'm pulling that data. I'm going to continue to try to make my facility more connected. It would seem to me that an active solution versus a sort of a passive solution has greater value, because I'm going to continue to sort of say, hey, look at that pump or that motor. I'm going to put a device out on that one. I just did because it's critical now, right? Whatever the reason is. But again, I'm an operations guy. I'm just
Yeah.
gonna,
And just to be clear, you're
Okay.
not putting something that's on every device, right? You're putting something in the environment in order to collect that data, whether that be active or passive. And just on the surface, you're absolutely right. If you can go talk to something, you're obviously going to be able to get more information about it.
Yeah.
It's the difference between, let's say you're at a party, right? You're at a party and I'm just sort of standing near you and I am eavesdropping on your conversation with somebody else. I'll probably learn some things about you.
Yeah.
Right. But if I were to walk up to you and ask you questions, obviously I'm going to learn way more about you. Right. So, before we started recording, we learned that we're both associated with Southern California. You grew up in Barstow and you went to school in Laverne. Like, that's not something that probably would come up at a cocktail party, right? You wouldn't normally just bring that up, right? But because we are talking,
Yeah.
that comes up, and I'm able to gather that piece of history about you.
Yeah.
And so, yes, on the surface, it is true. Active scanning is a superior solution because you're able to get so much more information. 100%. Yeah. The problem lies in how legacy active scanning solutions have been deployed into these OT and ICS environments, coupled with the way these the characteristics of these types of OT devices, right? And so what I'm getting at here is the fact that many of these OT devices are not robust to arbitrary network traffic. And in fact, there have been times in history where active scans have caused outages in these OT or ICM environments, right? The very thing that you want to avoid, right? You're trying to avoid outages,
right? You don't want that. And boy, you
revenue
do that one time,
right? So, and presumably you want to introduce security into your environment in order to be more robust to any sort of cyber attack that might cause an outage. But in fact, as you're trying to learn about your environment, you end up doing the exact thing that you didn't want to do, right? The exact thing that you're trying to avoid. And what it comes down to here is the fact that, well, there's a number of factors. One of them is the fact that these devices tend to come from numerous different vendors with numerous different operating systems, right? So on the IT side, you basically have Windows and you have Linux, and then you have Mac OS. And so there's only 3 different kinds to really just deal with. Whereas on the OT side, even among Siemens and Ella Bradley and so on and so forth, they have multiple different operating systems that they would run. Another important reason for this is the fact that these devices are very much fit for purpose, right? They're designed for a single type of thing to do. Whereas on the IT side, your computer can do so many different things. You can do financial modeling, you can play games, you can stream music, and so on and so forth. The IT devices are very much multi-purpose, whereas these OT devices have a single purpose, and so therefore there's a lot of variety. And when there's a lot of variety, it's harder to defend because there's so many different permutations of what could go on. Another big problem here is the fact that the code, the software on these OT devices are basically they're QA. They're tested to work properly for the job that they're doing, right? Whether it's receiving a signal that says, hey, turn this on or turn that off or increase the intensity of that, like very specific type of use cases. Nobody's actually testing for the negative cases or the edge cases where there's just like random network traffic that shows up. And the operating systems as well as the software on these devices will very, very often cause a reboot or freeze up
Yeah.
or just hang, right? And then that causes an outage. So I'll give you one example. So let's talk about a common active scanning technique, which what it does is, I'll just use an analogy, like uh, we're having a phone call, right?
Yeah.
So I call you on the phone and say hi,
Hi.
and then you respond, you say hi,
Yeah. Yeah.
and then you're waiting for the next thing from me, right? But the thing is, I'm the scanner here, and I'm trying to be as efficient as possible about me scanning. So the moment you said hi back, I knew that you were there, and
Yeah.
that was the information I was looking for, and I'm done, and then I walk away from that conversation. Now, you as the OT device, well, you're waiting for this conversation to finish,
So I get hung up. I'm going, hey, aren't you going to say bye or where
right?
is
And
it?
you're just
Where's,
there,
you know,
and
just,
you never hang up because
yeah,
you're waiting for the next thing,
that's
right?
right.
Now imagine you're just one of
Oh,
these devices,
huh.
right? But there's 1,000 of you, and I go to all 1,000 of you, and I say hi, and I'm waiting for you to say hi back. And the moment you say hi back, I'm like, okay, done. I go on to the next one, and so now I have 1,000 devices that are all hung up, not doing the jobs that they're supposed to be doing because they're waiting for me to continue a conversation,
How did,
right?
then what do you would do?
That's just one example, and that's just one example.
That's
And
just a heck of an example.
well, yeah, there's many more, but the thing is, like, this is just one type of thing that happens with legacy active scanning, right? The times that folks have used these older tools to do active scanning, and because of this, because of the ramifications, the real world concrete ramifications uh, that have occurred in the past, right? Most of these are not publicized. Like, I don't think anybody like goes around and announces it from the mountain that, hey, we did an active scan on our network, and now, this part of the
No.
city is now like, has a blackout, right? So
No.
so you don't it's not publicized, but it's happened. And one of the ramifications of active scanning being poorly deployed in these environments is there's a bias now against active scanning. And it has been for quite some
Oh.
time. And it is for this reason why passive discovery is the methodology that almost everybody uses.
Oh.
Almost everybody uses because they want to avoid that type of situation. They want to avoid crashing those devices. And so they will relegate themselves to just eavesdropping, right? So going back to the cocktail party example,
Right, right.
right? They're just going to eavesdrop, right? Because if you eavesdrop, you're not going to cause any issues with anybody at the party, right? Aside from being really creepy. But
Yes.
so but the thing is, as you were saying before at the beginning, coming full circle here, the information that you're going to have from eavesdropping through passive discovery is just not going to be as good, right? It's not going to be as complete. And in fact,
Huh.
oftentimes these passive discovery solutions will misidentify devices. They'll call it wrong.
Okay. Now that we have all of the problems that are associated with it, and I still want to be a connected organization, and I still want to pull data, and I want to make sure that I'm protected. What is what's your your take on it? What do you recommend that I'm not
So
shutting
so
things down?
yeah. So the big controversial thing, the big controversial idea here is that active scanning can be safe for OT and ICS environments as long as the scanner is developed in a certain way that can accommodate OT and ICS devices properly, to be able to talk to them without crashing them.
It would seem
And
to me that you would have this sort of a passive approach first and say, that's an Alan Bradley. Alan Bradley XYZ behaves this way. Here's a
mhm.
Siemens, and they behave this way. Oh, here's another device, and they behave a certain way, and we know this. And so, in my active scanning approach, it's sort of customized because of that specific device. Is that sort of it?
Yeah, so there's
Ish.
definitely some vendors who do sort of a passive discovery listening first, and then selectively does querying to individual devices. In practice, it I've seen many organizations that don't do step two. They're just they're so averse to doing any sort of querying, direct communication with the device, that they just stick with the listening and just call it a day. Right. So a lot of that comes back to the bias. So and the thing is, some of that active querying isn't necessarily all that in depth either. So it really depends. But what we have seen is if an active scanner is built fit for purpose to go out there and look at OT and ICS devices, then it can do the job, and ultimately it will have more information than you would otherwise.
But it just seems to me I'm going to have a conversation up front. That would be the ideal scenario, where I would say, hey, we're going to be connecting all of these assets, and we want to be able to have that conversation with security up front and make sure that we do this right.
Yeah. There's another really important difference between active scanning and passive discovery that's also problematic, which is with passive discovery, there tends to be a lot of cost and a lot of effort. So imagine, let's go back to this cocktail party.
Uh-huh.
How much of how many of the conversations at the party do I have to listen to really get an understanding of who's there and who everybody is?
You're working hard.
Yeah, you have to listen to everything.
You're sidling up to a bunch of them.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, and oftentimes, if it's just me, right? So I'm the collector here. If it's just me, I'm only going to hear part of the room, so I'm going to hear part of the conversation. So there has to be multiple collectors, multiple of me going around listening, and you have to listen a long time, right? If I were to go up and talk to you, I would get your name, within 30 seconds, right?
Yeah.
But if I were eavesdropping, I might have to wait a few minutes or even longer to find out that your name is Scott.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Oh, wow.
And I don't know if it's Scott with one T or Scott with two T's.
That's right.
Right. I mean, I could ask you, right? Then I would know right away. So with passive discovery, you tend to have to purchase these really high resource collectors in order to collect all that traffic, because it's a lot of network traffic that you have to collect in order to, eke out a little bit of information. Number two, the deployment is difficult, right? You need to be positioned at the right place in order to make sure you're capturing as much traffic as possible. So maybe I would have one collector hang out by the bar. Lots of people congregate there. Maybe have one person, a collector hang out by the door or something like that. Something like so, oftentimes when organizations try to roll out a passive discovery solution, it takes months or years.
Oh,
and the results aren't always great. Oftentimes they end up with an incomplete inventory, or as I said before, an inventory that's full of misidentified devices. Right.
you're killing me, Huxley.
Well, and the thing with active scanning is you don't have those problems. You don't have to be reconfiguring all the switches on the network in order to make sure that you're capturing all the traffic in order to be analyzed. Right. With active scanning, you can be very targeted and you can be very terse in your conversations on the network in order to gather that information. Right. It's so much more efficient. Right.
Yeah, but you still need to do something. And boy, that passive, that won't fly for me. That just won't. It's too long.
But this is what all the organizations do, because they're so because like I said before, avoiding outages is king. Availability is king. Right? That is so much more important than anything else that people have just used passive discovery. There are organizations that have policies against any active scanning in their OT environments, precisely because they're so averse to any sort of outages.
Yeah, but then they leave themselves so open for exposure, penetration.
Yeah.
Because they're too busy trying to do this passive or laying out this passive solution. This is what I hear you saying. And by that time it's and the way things there's that speed that exists out there. I mean, I can't wait a long time. I can't.
Yeah, well, and this is what it is, and it just it goes hand in hand with this idea of like never patching these ICS devices, right? That's another. I talk to folks throughout my travels about their challenges in OT environments. This one lady walked up to me. She said, "I can't get them to agree to patch anything on this network. They'll take downtime for business reasons or operational reasons, but they won't take any downtime for security reasons." And that's just that's just part of it. Like there's I'm here talking about going out there and finding out what are all the things that are on your OT network, but there's a larger conversation to be had about the role of security in OTS and ICS heavy organizations. So part of this comes down to active versus passive, but at the same time, there's a larger push for bringing security into OT that hopefully will happen over time.
It has
and
to.
hopefully it won't
on.
take 30 years.
No. Just in my short stint as the best podcast, industrial related podcast in the universe, that my short stint right here, right now, that's what you're on. But I've seen so many changes that have taken place, how quickly things have evolved, and I just can't imagine it taking. I just can't imagine taking long for people to realize or recognize, and I think it's happening. I think there is.
And like I said, unfortunately, it's happening for all the negative reinforcement that's happening in the news, right?
Yeah,
one thing I want to point out is that this is my opinion with OT environments, the number of incidents that are published are going to be fewer because the payoff is so much larger. So let me explain what I mean here.
Yeah.
So let's talk about ransomware, right? Ransomware on the IT side, lots of small and medium-sized businesses, dental offices and schools are getting ransom for their data, right? The payoff here is like $20,000 to $30,000, right? This is oftentimes what they charge, at least these days, on average. So the payoff is relatively small, right? It's not millions of dollars, right? And so a lot of folks, the adversary, the attackers, they can be very, very opportunistic about it, and they don't necessarily need to put in a lot of effort. It's almost a numbers game at that point.
Yeah,
right?
it is.
They just try and pop a whole bunch of mom and pop shops, and then just collect their money. With OT environments, the thing that you can do, right, is not really stealing information, but it's really like causing an outage, right? That's what really hurts.
Yeah,
right?
That's true.
Not allowing the organization to be able to operate a device in a proper way.
Yeah.
Right. That's the type of ransom, right? They're ransoming the device, not ransoming the data, right? And this is a very important distinction. IT security is all about data, controlling access to data, encrypting that data, making sure that the data has integrity, it hasn't been changed, right? On the OT side, it's all about securing devices, right? So ransomware, the analog on the OT side, is ransoming the device itself, preventing you from operating the device in the way that you want to. And the thing is, there's no like low key way of screwing up those devices, right? And hitting a dental office for ransomware, that's like low key, right? Because you're not ransoming like target data, like all the PII from the target breach and things like this. For on the OT side, there isn't a whole lot of like low key low key attack. And so for the adversary who's actually put the work to get into these OT environments, they're probably going to wait until it's worth their while to execute the hurt, right?
Yeah.
Because the moment they do something, it means like the city doesn't have water, or the state doesn't have power, or what have you.
Yeah.
And so in my mind, and again, this is my opinion, I'm guessing here, there are probably far more of the adversary lurking in these OT environments right now than there are actual known breaches, right? So if let's say the ratio on the IT side of the adversary already being present on the network versus breaches is a certain number, that ratio is going to be much lower on the OT side. Sorry, the other way.
No, I was just going to say the IT, because OT is different. They're lurking.
Right. So you think about the number of breaches, right? And on the IT side, right? Think about the number of breaches. The number of adversary lurking there is, let's say, 5x. I'm just guessing. That's not science, right? And on the OT side, it's probably going to be like 50x. There's just, my opinion, probably a lot more of the adversary just lurking around the OT environments, waiting for the next opportunity to go ahead and execute whatever they want to. Some of these are nation state, right? Because they're waiting for like the political situation or the military situation to move. But others are financially driven, and they're probably waiting for the right opportunity to make it all work.
Jeez, Huxley. No, I'm not going to sleep well at night. Well, I'm going to sleep fine at night just because I don't have any operations that I have to worry about.
Yeah, well, you're out of that now, right?
I'm out of that, thank goodness, because that is exhausting.
Yeah, sorry. We could cut that out.
No, we're not going to cut it out. That's it. The reality is that security is important. Get up front,
Yes.
Make it happen, have that conversation, and don't shy away from it. Deal with the whatever the problem is, but just deal with it. And then come up with the strategy and the plan and understand the risks. And you don't put your head in the sand on this one.
There needs to be a security program. Every organization
there has to be.
that has an OT ICS
and I would imagine
needs to have a security program.
Yeah, and I would imagine don't be so prideful either. You know what I mean? We got in a security program. Yeah, it's 27 years old. It's a problem. So,
yeah. Well, I don't think any security veteran would ever tout their successes, right? It's a strange thing because in the world of security, success is defined by nothing happening.
Yes. It's odd. It's an odd. That's why it's so difficult to have security conversations, because nobody wants to air their dirty laundry and say, "Yeah, look at us, man. We got breached over here." Right. Nobody wants to do that. But then there's learning that can be done by that, right? And nobody was saying, we want to be the example of people learn. No, you don't want that. No. How do people get a hold of you, Huxley?
Oh, well, I am active.
Hey, plug your conference, whatever that conference is.
Oh, sure. Yes. So runZero is going to be at the S4 conference in Miami, March 4th through March 7th. Not only that, we are going to be participating in the ICS Village, which is at the conference. I will personally be there at the ICS conference. runZero and 8 other vendors will be trying out their solutions on a mock network that's being hosted by the ICS Village. I think there's going to be a manufacturing environment and potentially one more other type of OT environment. And we are going to be running our solutions to try and detect all the different protocols and all the devices that are running there, both active and passive capabilities. So we're going to be there. So if you want to see me in person, I don't know why I just want to say hi and shake hands. I will be at the ICS Village for the entire time. And if you want to learn more about runZero, you can go to our website, www.runzero.com. And on our website, you can actually download a free version of the software, which includes both the active scanning as well as we have our own passive discovery capability called passive traffic sampling. It's a little different from what all the other passive network monitors do. But in any case, there's a free community edition. You can download it. You can try out the active scanning capability. You can also try out our passive traffic sampling monitoring. Sorry. You can also try out our passive traffic sampling capability.
It's a mouthful.
Yeah. And if you want to reach me, you can find me on LinkedIn or the infosec.exchange instance of Mastodon. Just look for Huxley Barbee, Huxley Barbee. I am the only Huxley Barbee you're ever going to meet.
I was going to say, it's like, no, he's not Huxley Barbee 5932 dash whatever that LinkedIn puts out there. And by the way, you need to see. You're sporting that goat right now, and your picture doesn't have the goat. You're looking quite hip with that goatee.
Thank you. It's more laziness than a sense of style. Appreciate that.
What?
Yeah, a goatee looks good on you. I don't think it looks good on me. This is like salt and pepper. Like it's yeah.
I'm all salt, no pepper. All right, wonderful, Huxley. You were absolutely wonderful.
Thank you.
All right, listeners, we're going to wrap it up on the other side. We're going to have all the contact information for Huxley and all the links. So reach out. Darn it, have this conversation in security. All right, we will be right back.
You're listening to the Industrial Talk Podcast Network.
Yeah, you want to be connected. You need individuals like Huxley. You need his company, runZero. Make sure that you're properly protected against nefarious individuals out there as you continue to connect your assets. We're connected. There you go. Reach out to him. Contact information all out on Industrial Talk, so it's all out there. Make sure you make that happen. This is an ecosystem. It's expanding. You need to be a part of it as we continue to solve problems. You are a problem solver. Your voice needs to be heard. You need to help industry succeed. That's what Industrial Talk is all about. That's the purpose behind Industrial Talk. So that when somebody goes out to Industrial Talk, sees your name, oh, hey, that's great. All right. Be bold. Be brave. Dare greatly. Hang out with Huxley. Change the world. We're going to have another great conversation shortly, so stay tuned.